They told you that you create your reality, that every thought, every emotion, every vibration emanating from your mind builds the world you see. But what if that isn't entirely true? What if reality isn't something you create, but something you bend, something that already exists, waiting for your awareness to shape its flow? This isn't about manifesting a car or a job or a soulmate. It's about understanding the deeper mechanics of consciousness, the structure of existence itself. Reality is not a blank canvas you paint from scratch. It's an infinite ocean, constantly moving, shifting, and reflecting back the frequency of your attention. You're not a creator standing outside of it. You are a participant inside of it, influencing the current with every thought you allow to persist. Imagine reality as a mirror. When you smile, it smiles back. When you frown, it echoes your expression. You can't command the mirror to change first. You have to move first. That's the paradox of life that so many people misunderstand. They try to create something new from a mindset of lack, never realizing that the mirror only shows them what they already are. When you bend reality, you're not forcing it. You're aligning yourself with a version of existence where what you desire already is. That's the secret mystics, scientists, and philosophers have been pointing to for centuries. It's not about control, it's about coherence. Every version of reality already exists. Infinite timelines running side by side like radio frequencies. Each thought, each belief, each expectation is like tuning your dial. You don't create the radio station, you select it. The frequency was always there, you just had to find the one that resonates with you. This is what it means to bend reality. You shift your frequency, not the field itself. And once you do, everything around you, the people, the events, the coincidences, rearrange to match your new vibration. Think about those moments when something impossible happens. When you think of a person, and they call you seconds later. When an opportunity arrives just when you needed it. When life feels like it's responding to your inner state. That isn't coincidence. That's coherence in motion. You've bent the field without even realizing it. But here's where most people get stuck. They try to bend reality while still holding on to the same emotional state that built their current one. They say, "I'll believe it when I see it," instead of realizing you'll see it when you believe it. You cannot bend reality from resistance. You can only bend it through surrender, through the quiet acceptance that reality is malleable, not mechanical. Science is starting to catch up to this ancient wisdom. Quantum physics tells us that observation affects outcome, that particles behave differently when they are being watched. This isn't magic, it's mechanics. The universe is participatory, your consciousness is part of its code. But bending reality doesn't mean forcing it to obey your commands. It means becoming so aligned with what you seek that it has no choice but to appear. The future is not something you wait for, it's something you enter into by becoming the person who already lives there. This is the shift from creating to bending. Creation assumes separation, as if there's you, and then there's the universe, and you must build a bridge between the two. Bending assumes unity, as if you are the universe, and the bridge never needed to exist. Look around you right now. Everything you see, every detail, every relationship, every opportunity or obstacle, is an echo of your most persistent assumptions, not your fleeting thoughts, but your state of being. That state is your command signal. If you feel small, life will echo smallness. If you feel abundant, life bends toward abundance. If you feel forgotten, life seems to forget you. But when you shift your self-concept, when you begin to live from the identity of someone who already has what they desire, then reality has no option but to conform. This is what the mystics called the law of correspondence. As above, so below. As within, so without. You don't force the reflection to smile. You smile first. You don't demand the world to change. You change the way you see the world. When you stop trying to create reality, you stop struggling with it. You begin to notice how easily it bends when you stop fighting its flow. You see patterns aligning, synchronicities stacking, coincidences that are too precise to ignore. You begin to feel the hum beneath everything, the subtle field that connects thought to form, emotion to event, belief to manifestation. And you realize you were never creating reality, you were selecting it. Bending is effortless because it works through resonance, not resistance. Think of a tuning fork. Strike one, and another across the room starts to vibrate at the same frequency. You don't have to run over and hit it. You simply align the vibration. That's how reality works. You don't create the sound, you match it. But here's the challenge. Most people are trying to bend reality while their vibration is scattered. They want abundance, but believe in scarcity. They want love, but feel unworthy. They want peace, but live in anxiety. You can't bend reality into something your energy doesn't match. To bend reality, you must first bend yourself. You have to soften your rigid beliefs, your emotional patterns, your self-image. You have to release the stories that define what's possible. Because every story is a filter, and every filter hides a version of reality you could be living right now. Once you begin to release those filters, you start to see differently. The world doesn't suddenly change, you do. And in that change, you start to perceive doors that were always there, waiting for you to walk through. When you understand that, something shifts. You stop asking, how do I make this happen? And start asking, who must I become for this to happen naturally? Because the truth is, the universe doesn't respond to your desires, it responds to your identity. If section 1 was about understanding what bending reality means, then this is where you begin to learn how it's done. Because the art of bending isn't about external action, it's about internal calibration. It's the mastery of awareness, emotion, and focus. Let's begin with awareness. Most people live unconsciously. Their minds replay the same loops day after day, repeating the same judgments, reactions, and fears. They don't realize that every loop is a signal being sent into the field of reality, echoing back as the experiences they meet. Reality bends to awareness. Not the awareness that merely sees what is, but the awareness that chooses what to see. When you start observing your inner dialogue, you realize how much of your world is built by unconscious narratives. I'm not good enough. Things never work out. Life is hard. Each statement becomes a code embedded into your reality. But once you witness that code, you can rewrite it. You begin to see how flexible the universe truly is. You start replacing limitation with possibility, scarcity with abundance, doubt with expectancy. And as those inner codes shift, the outer world starts morphing with mathematical precision. It's not coincidence, it's correspondence. Now let's talk about emotion. Emotion is the language of the field. It's not your thoughts that bend reality. It's the feeling those thoughts produce. You can think I am successful 1,000 times, but if your body vibrates with fear or lack, the signal is scrambled. The field doesn't respond to your words, it responds to your frequency. That's why emotional mastery is the real power. Feel first, and the world follows. Close your eyes for a moment, and remember a time you felt genuinely powerful, when something inside you aligned perfectly, when the world seemed to open for you. That vibration isn't random, it's a key. Every time you return to it, you send a frequency that reorganizes reality in your favor. When you master emotion, you become the tuning fork. You don't chase opportunities, they resonate toward you. And then there's focus. The mind is a lens, and whatever it fixates on expands. Most people use that lens unconsciously, focusing on what they don't want, and wondering why they get more of it. But when you deliberately focus your attention, when you stop scattering your awareness across worry, regret, and comparison, you begin to compress reality into clarity. Focus is a sculptor. It chisels possibility into form. Imagine standing in a hall of mirrors. Each mirror reflects a different version of your life, some bright, some dark, some wildly different from what you've known. Each mirror is a timeline. Each reflection, a potential. Now imagine you can walk toward one mirror, and as you do, its reflection grows stronger, clearer, more vivid, until you step into it completely. That's bending reality. You walk toward the reflection you prefer by focusing your awareness and emotion on it until it becomes undeniable. But to do that, you must drop one of the heaviest illusions: control. Control is the ego's addiction. It's the belief that if you just plan harder, think harder, or force harder, you can make life obey you. But bending reality isn't about forcing. It's about allowing. When you release control, you don't become passive, you become aligned. You move in rhythm with the flow instead of against it. You stop treating the universe like an employee and start dancing with it as a partner. Think of the surfer. The surfer doesn't create the wave. He waits for it, feels its pull, times his movement, and then merges with its momentum. The wave carries him farther than any effort could. The surfer bends water through rhythm, not resistance. That's what bending reality feels like. You sense the energetic tide and move with it. You let go of how and hold on to who, because when the who changes, the how arranges itself. Let's go deeper. Reality doesn't bend because you say affirmations. It bends because you embody alignment. You become the version of yourself who already lives in the reality you want, not in imagination but in state. That's where most people go wrong. They visualize their dream life while still emotionally anchored in their old one. You can't visit a timeline while your emotional passport belongs to another. The field listens to identity. It recognizes vibration, not words. To bend reality, you must remember who you are beyond this current story. Beneath the name, the history, the failures, the titles, there's a consciousness untouched by experience. That's the part of you capable of infinite selection. When you rest in that awareness, you can slip between timelines like a lucid dreamer moving between worlds. Every great breakthrough, every sudden miracle, every out-of-nowhere event happens because someone dropped into alignment with a new identity, even for a moment. That's when the universe bends. But bending doesn't mean bypassing pain. It means seeing pain differently. It means realizing that discomfort is not punishment, it's guidance. Every obstacle is a recalibration, redirecting you toward resonance. The friction you feel isn't the universe rejecting you, it's reality adjusting to your new frequency. So when things fall apart, don't panic. It's the sound of the old timeline breaking. Most people quit during the breaking phase. They run back to the familiar because it feels safer. But that's like stepping out of the wave right before it crests. You have to trust the current long enough to let it carry you somewhere new. That's the paradox. Bending requires surrender, not struggle. And once you understand this, life starts to feel lighter. You begin to notice how much of your suffering came from trying to create reality instead of dancing with it. You realize that the version of you who bends effortlessly isn't more powerful, just more attuned. When alignment replaces effort, reality becomes fluid. People appear, timing syncs, doors open. What once felt impossible becomes inevitable. This is why the masters spoke in riddles. Be still and know, let go and receive, ask and it is given. These weren't poetic metaphors. They were mechanical instructions for bending the fabric of existence. Stillness tunes you in. Letting go releases resistance. Asking aligns intention. Each one is a lever that moves the universe without force. Because when you stop trying to create reality, you finally realize it was never about creating something new. It was about seeing what was already there, hidden beneath your disbelief. And when disbelief fades, visibility returns. You start to perceive reality not as something to conquer, but something to collaborate with. You stop treating life as a test and start treating it as a conversation. Every event becomes feedback. Every delay becomes direction. Every no becomes a redirection toward a timeline that fits you better. When you see the world this way, everything bends, effortlessly. And the irony is, once you stop trying so hard to create, creation happens faster than ever. When you finally stop creating reality and start bending it, a strange peace settles in. You no longer feel like you're chasing the future. You begin to enter it. Life stops being a project and becomes a performance. Fluid, dynamic, responsive. At this point, the old rules of cause and effect begin to blur. You realize you're not moving through time as much as time is moving through you. Events no longer feel random. They appear as reflections of your state of being. You sense that the universe isn't testing you, it's mirroring you. And so, your work becomes internal refinement. You start each day not by asking, what do I need to do, but who am I being, because you've seen how reality organizes itself around identity. You understand that when you are calm, clarity follows. When you are grateful, opportunities align. When you are open, synchronicity rushes in. This is the life of someone who bends reality. You move through the world with quiet authority, not arrogance. You no longer need to prove, convince, or force. You've realized that force is a declaration of doubt. True power is subtle. It hums. It doesn't shout. In every conversation, you start noticing the subtle feedback of the field, the tone of someone's voice, the timing of an email, the feeling in your chest before a decision. All of it becomes communication from the greater intelligence you're a part of. The universe stops being silent. It starts to speak fluently through patterns. And the better you listen, the more fluid your life becomes. At first it feels supernatural. You think, how could things align so perfectly? But after a while it stops feeling magical. It starts feeling normal. Because it is normal. You were designed to live this way. The struggle was never natural. The flow always was. Bending reality is not the act of a magician. It's the return of a forgotten skill. It's remembering that your attention is a creative force and your emotional state is a sculptor of form. The illusion of separation begins to dissolve. You start seeing yourself not as a small being in a vast universe, but as the vast universe expressing itself through a small being. The boundaries between you and it blur until they vanish entirely. When that realization dawns, fear loses its power. You understand that nothing is truly against you because there is no other. There is only reflection. Every shadow becomes a teacher. Every delay a direction. Every obstacle a form of choreography in the dance between you and the cosmos. This is where mastery begins, not in control but in communion. People will ask you, "How are you so lucky? How do things always seem to work out for you?" And you'll smile because you know luck has nothing to do with it. You're not lucky, you're aligned. You no longer create from struggle. You bend through resonance. Think of life like music. The notes already exist. Every possible melody is encoded within the field of sound. You don't create new notes, you select them, you compose them in a way that feels harmonious to your soul. Reality works the same way. Every possibility already exists. You simply choose the one that sings in tune with your essence. The instrument of choice is awareness. The rhythm is emotion. The melody is focus. When all three harmonize, life becomes symphonic. But remember, bending reality isn't about constant bliss. It's about balance. There will still be contrast, challenge, and growth. The difference is, you stop interpreting contrast as chaos. You see it as composition. When something uncomfortable happens, you no longer collapse into victimhood. You pause and ask, what frequency is this inviting me to upgrade? Because every challenge is just a new invitation to refine your vibration. This mindset transforms everything. The traffic jam becomes a lesson in patience. The rejection becomes redirection. The delay becomes divine timing. And the loss becomes liberation. You start realizing that even the events you once labeled bad were never mistakes. They were mechanics. They were the field bending you before you knew how to bend it yourself. And so gratitude becomes your natural state. Gratitude bends reality faster than any technique, because gratitude is the signature of completion. When you are grateful for something, you declare that it already exists. You remove separation between desire and fulfillment. You collapse the wave of probability into form. This is why gratitude works miracles. It tells the universe, I already have it. And the universe, in perfect reflection, replies, so it is. Now, you begin to live in a feedback loop of synchronicity. The more you trust the flow, the more evidence you receive that you can trust it. The more you surrender control, the more control you actually seem to have. The paradox becomes your playground. Reality bends not to your demands, but to your understanding. Let's bring this home. The phrase, stop creating reality, bend to it instead, is not about surrendering to fate. It's about transcending the illusion that fate and free will are separate. When you bend, you move into the middle path, the space where desire and destiny merge. Creation implies effort. Bending implies intelligence. Creation needs time. Bending collapses it. When you create, you say, I will make this happen. When you bend, you say, I will become the version of me for whom this has already happened. And that subtle shift changes everything. You stop pushing. You start pulling. You stop chasing results. You start becoming causes. You stop fighting for alignment. You start being alignment. In that state, even silence feels abundant. Even stillness feels productive. You no longer need proof because you are the proof. Your life becomes a demonstration of coherence. And from that coherence, you start inspiring others. Not through teaching, but through presence. People feel it. They sense something in you that bends their own reality just by proximity. You become a living reminder that there's another way to exist, one that doesn't require constant striving. You become the still point in the turning world, the calm in the storm, the eye within chaos. Not because life stopped happening, but because you stopped resisting it. That's what bending reality really means. It's not escaping this world. It's mastering your participation in it. It's realizing that the world doesn't respond to effort. It responds to energy. You don't have to shout your intentions into the void. You only have to whisper them into coherence. And when you do, reality listens. So stop creating. Stop trying so hard to make the world fit your will. Instead, bend, gently, deliberately, like light curving through glass. Bend toward the version of yourself that already knows peace. Bend toward the timeline where your dream is ordinary. Bend toward the awareness that nothing outside you is separate from what's within you. Because when you finally bend reality, you'll realize it was never solid to begin with. It was always liquid, always alive, always waiting for you to remember how to move with it. And that's the moment you stop fighting the current. That's the moment you stop forcing creation. That's the moment you become one with the flow that bends universes. Reality doesn't change when you demand it. Reality changes when you embody it. And when you do, everything bends.